Hey guys, my name is Aaron. I'm the lead guitar player for the Responding, and I just wanted to talk through a few ideas for you, your role as a guitar player within a worship context, and I also want to leave you with a few ideas, tips and tricks that you could take home tomorrow and implement in your services. So first, let's go ahead and start with your role. Your role as an electric guitar player, there's a few things that you're going to function as. One would be melodically, you are functioning as adding extra melodic content within a mix or within a song. Second, you're also adding a sonic quality within a mix and a song. Electric guitar is within a kind of mid-range frequency. If you look at the frequencies, you have your low all the way to high, and electric guitar is kind of in those mid-range, and if you as a guitar player aren't there, then there's a gap within those frequencies that you're missing. I'm also, along with being a guitar player, I'm an audio engineer, both live and studio. So I think about all the time how an instrument is sitting within the frequency range, how a vocal is playing with the guitar within frequency range, also with how melodically, how they're speaking with each other. Are they helping each other? Are they hurting each other? Are they distracting? Those are things I want us to think about as guitar players. Is my playing distracting from the vocal? Is it helping aid to the vocal? Is it serving the song? That's a phrase we like to use. Are you serving the song? When you're playing, is your playing style serving the song? Are you overplaying? Are you underplaying? It's pretty common that as musicians, we tend to overplay. Be very careful that, if you're a lead guitar player and there's a vocal singing a chorus, that you're not shredding up in that chorus and you're kind of getting in the way of the vocal now. And let's be honest, within worship, the vocal is the most important part. We want to be able to hear what they're singing. We want to be able to sing along, but we can help aid to that. So maybe as a lead guitar player, you could come in on the chorus. Maybe you don't have a lead part within the song, but you could just double maybe what the vocal is doing. So maybe hit that melody line, and that will actually just help strengthen that vocal. Or if you're a lead guitar player, if you're a rhythm guitar player and there's that big chorus, if you come in and you're just thinking on one little note, it's not going to add like a bigger presence to it. It's not going to really add much. But if you come in and there's a big old chorus, a big old bridge, come in with just the big fat chords with some drive and some reverb on it to really help that chorus build. So those are just some things to think through as far as what your role is as a guitar player and how you can help serve the song. All right, so as a worship guitar player, and really any guitar player, but your foundation of your tone is very important. Each genre has its own sound and kind of feel that you kind of have to fit within. If you don't, you're just going to sound out of place, and it's not going to make sense in the mix. So I'm going to quickly talk about foundation of tone, but within a worship context. So first, how I want to start out is talking about starting out with a just clean tone. So that goes, with your guitar and amp, everything affects it. But starting out with a clean tone. So let me just show you real quick, just a bass clean tone that I would start out at. So within that tone, there's no breakup happening. It's just a nice, clean tone that's clear. It also has a little bit of chime into it. It's not dull. And then after that, always having your first kind of level of drive. Now, when we're getting into this, I'm not going to give us specific companies or pedals or anything like that because there's so many out there. And honestly, nowadays, they're all doing such a great job. But I just want to talk about kind of the basics of it. So we're starting out with our clean tone. That's kind of our first stage. After that, we then add in kind of a second stage or a gain stage with just a lighter drive. I happen to just have a dual drive that I use. And I would say 2 drives is pretty much a minimum at this point within worship because you're covering so many different songs that honestly, they're all worship, but they can fit within kind of different subgenres as well. So having your first level of drive. So I'm gonna kick that on, and you're gonna hear that it's a very reactive drive. So it reacts to the way you're playing. So if you're digging in, that drive is also gonna press in. If you're not digging in, it's gonna clean up just a bit. So you could hear as I'm digging in, that drive is digging in as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and just hit it a little bit lighter, and you're gonna hear that drive kind of react to the way I'm playing. So that is a great start for your first kind of level of drive. This drive can be used, let's say you're in your first verse and you're just kind of playing some block chords. Kicking on just that lighter drive like that with a little bit of reverb, great start. And then once you get into that really kicking bridge or whatever and you need to just add extra meat to it, you can now add in our second drive. So right now, like I said, I have this dual drive, and it's actually is stacking this drive on top of the first one, which when you're getting into maybe that bigger chorus, that bigger bridge, and you really want to kick on that second drive that's just going to add that extra meat, kind of that extra punch, this would be your second stage. Now with mine, like I said, I have a dual drive, and that second drive is actually stacking on top of that first drive within the chain. So let's go ahead and turn on that second drive, and let's hear it go. So this one is way less reactive. And I'll go ahead and show you, but if I am picking it lightly, it's still gonna have some edge on it. And when I dig in, I mean, it's just beefier through the whole thing. And very important, I want to just talk about specifically the second stage. I've heard it very often where we kind of start getting into that kind of higher gain sound, and what can happen is it just gets too much gain and things start to sound very oversaturated, and within a mix, it's actually really tough to place in the mix because there's just so much drive and it starts to sound kind of fizzy. So be very careful when you're getting into your second stage, maybe even a third stage with a boost if you're doing a lot of the lead lines and you need to add a lot of grit to those single lead lines. Just be careful that you're not going overboard. You'll lose actually definition and clarity within your separate notes. So all of a sudden your lead line will just start to sound a little mushy. So just be careful of that within your second stage. There's also reverb and delays are very important within worship guitar. I always like to have a kind of bass, kind of starting point reverb that if I'm playing a rhythm guitar, I can slap on that reverb. Here's what's really, really helpful with reverb coming from a mixing standpoint. Not only do you have, when we think of listening, we think of left and right. We also have front and back. So that if there's no reverb on anything, it's gonna be way up front. It's gonna be right in your face. If you start adding space to it, so reverb or even delays can help add space, it starts to go back away from you. So therefore, you're now adding a new dimension. So reverb is a tool that can be used to help create space. And within a mix, you have left and right, but also very important is you have space. You have kind of front and back. So you have things that are like right at your face, and then you have things that will be sitting back. So as a guitar player, we have different reverb pedals that add space. We have different delay pedals that help add space. And those things can help set us apart in the mix because it kind of sets us back as well. So if there's something more up front, we can kind of sit behind it. I'm going to show you kind of my starting point for like a reverb if I was just a rhythm guitar player. So here's just my dry tone. And let's add the reverb to it. So I'm going to go ahead and just do a couple of little strums. Also, what reverb will help with for you as a guitar player is it actually helps things feel more fluid. It's not so like choppy sounding. It can soften some pick attack as well. So for example, I'm gonna go ahead and just pick something totally dry, and then I'll go ahead and pick something with some reverb. So that just helped kind of set it back a little bit. It helped kind of just soften up, like I said. It's not as choppy sounding. Kind of a next step, I like to have basically 2 to 3 kind of levels of my reverb. My next step would be a bigger, more ambient tone. And I use a lot of this for verses where I just want to lay out kind of just a sonic sound. I don't necessarily want to hear loads of guitar, but I just want to hear like a just big ambient thing. So I'd start with some reverb, and I'm just going to add a little delay to this. So what this does as a rhythm player is it makes what could be a very sterile and kind of boring sound. All of a sudden, you heard it had texture to it. You heard some of the delay and the modulation in that delay kind of working together, and it just had a very cool texture from the point I hit the chord to the point that I hit my next chord. That space sonically was filled with just really cool sounds. So that is kind of another step into thinking of your tone and kind of the foundation of a worship guitar player's tone. So I wanted to leave you guys with just a simple trick, something that I've been using for years that you could implement at your next service. So maybe you guys are at a big church and this might not totally apply because you have tracks and you have keyboard players and you have all these things that are filling up kind of your sonic areas. Maybe you're at a smaller church where you don't have all those things. You might not even have a keyboard player. And maybe all you have is a piano player, and the piano player doesn't have the extra pads or anything like that. It's just piano. This for you will be so awesome, and it'll be something that you'll be able to use every single service. And it's very simple. All it takes is just a little bit of use of your tone on your guitar, your tone control on your guitar, just having reverb, delay, and a looper. Honestly, a lot of the delay pedals now have loopers built in. I happen to have a separate looper pedal for it. But the idea of this is you can, by yourself, build a moment where you're just underscoring. And how we start out first is you start out by building a pad. And pick whatever key you're in. We'll say we're in the key of D. You're just going to start on your root chord, just sit on the D, finger picking with reverb and delay on, and then you record that in to your looper, and then you can add another layer. So maybe you kick on a shimmer verb, and then you go to a different voicing of that chord, and then you're picking that in, you add your next layer, and then from there, you now have that nice pad that's set, and you can start playing over top of it. If you want to be, playing just different progressions or whatever you might want to play. So I'm going to go ahead and show you that and how to do that and how I do it. All right, so I've just built my first pad, and I had 2 layers. Started with that lower guitar tone where I just rolled my tone off. I had my reverb and delay on, and then you saw I just did a finger picking. Added my second layer, which is with extra shimmer verb, and I came up and kind of did a different voicing of the chord. Added that in, I'm gonna go ahead and just add in a third layer just 'cause. Cool, so it's as easy as that, and you kind of heard I did a few different levels of different reverbs when I was actually playing through the progressions, and that was just kind of showing you some different sounds that you could lay over top of that pad that you built. And this is all super useful in different moments, like if maybe your church does an altar call at the end of your service, and you want to just be laying a foundation of just kind of an atmosphere and some music while the pastor is giving an altar call, or maybe it's just before a song, just any of those moments where someone is speaking, but you really just want to add an extra just level of just kind of atmosphere and just engagement. That's the biggest part of doing underscoring, is to add a level of engagement for the people that are listening. So those people are now just hooked into what they're saying. So be very careful when you're underscoring or playing, that the way you play, maybe the notes that you play, the tone that you have, doesn't actually end up stepping on whoever's speaking. And that can easily happen where if you have your tone fully bright and you're playing a lot of different notes, that kind of stuff can distract. So just be very careful that what you're playing is not distracting, but it's just aiding to the moment and what's happening. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed just the different tips and tricks that you learned today. We're gonna be having a lot more videos with different ideas and things that you can implement for your worship team. So just keep on the lookout for those videos.